Hello friends, it is August 12th and it's time for Wednesday Connections. Recently I had a friend stop by for a social distant visit. And as I sat and listened to her story about how she's coping with this really unusual and strange time we are all living in, I was inspired to hear her approach to how she's coping. She seemed completely at peace, presenting herself as living in the moment because really, she said, that's really all we have right now, is this very moment. As I listened, I understood something about myself. My approach to life has always been to plan. I'm a planner. I like to plan ahead. I like to also think about all the things that could go wrong or right and be ready for any kind of scenario how things might turn out. And so with that kind of approach, I gotta be honest with you, my focus is most often not as much on the present moment as it probably needs to be. And so when my friend asked me, I've been talking a whole long time now, and I want to know, how are you holding up? I was ready with all kinds of platitudes and assurances like, oh, I'm okay. This is a really weird time to be in ministry, but I'm doing it with the help of my husband Greg and others. We are getting by. We're doing all right. But as those words and thoughts were going around in my head, I knew she wouldn't let me off that easy. She is one of those people who looks a person in the eyes and sees deeply. And so I decided to give her an honest assessment. I said, as a pastor and a person who loves to plan ahead and ready myself for all the possible outcomes in anything I do, I gotta tell you, this is a really challenging time for me with all the unknowns. It's really hard on my personality to live that way. I talked about how I can get caught up in all of the questions of what will our lives look like on the other side of this coronavirus? What will our church, our life as a congregation look like? What will our relationships with those we love most look like? Our family life, our home life, all the unknowns causes my anxiety to rise. This wise woman sat there very calmly and very grounded as she listened to me rant just a little. It wasn't a huge rant, but a little one. And then she said, live in the now. Live in the moment more, Kathy. It's time for you to be fully present to right now. The future will work itself out with a little help from you, yes, but it's not all yours to be concerned about. There are all kinds of people who will help. After she left, I spent considerable time thinking about everything that she had said. So last night when I opened my Bible to read, I was drawn to Romans 12. And it's one of Paul's letters to the Romans, and it's about the virtues of a true Christian. Listen to these words. I'm going to begin with verse 9 and go through to verse 18. Let love be genuine. Hate what is evil. Hold fast to what is good. Love one another with mutual affection. Outdo one another in showing honor. Do not lag in zeal. Be ardent in spirit. Serve the Lord. Rejoice in hope. Be patient in suffering. Persevere in prayer. Contribute to the needs of the saints. Extend hospitality to strangers. Bless those who persecute you, and bless and do not curse them. Rejoice with those who rejoice, and weep with those who weep. Live in harmony with one another. Do not be haughty, but associate with the lowly. Do not claim to be wiser than you are. Do not repay anyone evil for evil, but take thought for what is noble in the sight of all. If it is possible, so far as it depends on you, live peaceably with all. I really like that passage because I think in order to live the way that Paul instructed the Romans to live, we have to attend to the work of our souls, that inner work of listening to God's voice, of listening for those whispers of God that I talked about a few years ago. I did a whole sermon series on it. Listening to the whispers of God among us that are everywhere, if we are willing to live in the moment and listen. I think in order to do this, we're going to have to let go of all of our expectations and ways of being and relax more into God's Spirit. In a very real way, for us to live peaceably, as it says in verse 18, I think we're going to have to face some of the dark sides of ourselves, which for me is being such a big planner and wanting to know how things are going to be and being ready for anything. We need to let go of that a little more, just enough so that God can calm us down and enter in. And for me, that is letting go of the anxiety of all the unknowns, letting go of not knowing what the future is going to look like on the other side of the coronavirus. Henry Nouwen, I think I've mentioned him many times in sermons and in different ways, but is one of the writers that has always been helpful to me. Henry Nouwen would talk a lot about soul work and how we need to attend to our souls. I spend time with this devotional book. It's entitled Dare to Journey with Henry Nouwen. And he speaks in one of the devotions about being open to our inner self and dealing with our dark side. Listen to what he says. The house of the inner self is not always a place of peace. It could also be a place of turmoil and struggle. One of the things we constantly grapple with is how to sustain our resolve to continue to do what is right. We are all aware of forces within us that pull us away from the good. And within ourselves, we can nurture desires that ultimately will be destructive. Nouwen goes on to remind us that what remains hidden, kept in the dark, incommunicable, can easily become a destructive force, always ready to explode in unexpected moments. What is kept in the dark ultimately becomes the dark side of ourselves. What is indulgently nurtured in our inner thoughts finally becomes a part of our being. While with great effort we may be able to bring those unwholesome thoughts under control, we frequently need to walk the road of humility by opening this part of our life to another person. We then need the help of a trusted friend who cares for us in ways that go deeper than our public persona. This friend must be able to hear the story of our turmoil and to extend to us grace, forgiveness, and peace. I conclude today by simply saying, I hope that you can identify those soul friends that can look you in the eye, ask how you are, and not let you off the hook. I hope you can find a friend that, if you don't have that, will do for you what my friend recently did for me, not even realizing it. Kind of jarred me into a little more of alignment. And then may you open yourself to God's loving Spirit that is always moving among us. And in order to do that, I expect you too, like me, will need to stop and live in the moment a little more often. I really miss seeing you. I really miss being with you. And I hope you are all doing well. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.